Good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. Lisa Simpson, and I'm the President and CEO of AcademyHealth, and it is my distinct pleasure to welcome you to the Healthcare Privacy and Security Summit. Along with many of you, we've just attended 2 days of the Health Datapalooza. So how many of you were there with us? Great, a bunch of you. So you just get to dive even deeper into some of these thorny issues. But today is not the first day we'll be talking about privacy and security. The steering committee who organized the Health Datapalooza knew that these topics, these issues, are so central to the future of health data that they really felt it was important to devote an entire day to it, knowing that it would still come up during the main conference. So those of you who attended Datapalooza heard me introduce you to AcademyHealth, but not all of you were there. We are a national nonprofit membership organization, and we work with the producers and users of evidence to improve health and the performance of the health system. And in addition to our flagship focus on research, we're kind of deep into data because we like to say data is the lifeblood of research, but data drives everything. And so we also convene the Electronic Data Methods Forum, the Concordium Conference, and the ONC-funded Community Health Peer Learning Program, and many other programs focused on data and leveraging data for health system improvements. As you can imagine, a number of those activities focus on data governance. And thus, are you getting feedback? Is there? Yeah, okay. And many of those focus on the promise and expectations of interoperability, as well as the need to educate and remind stakeholders of the relevant privacy and security regulations. So if you weren't at Datapalooza and want to know what was in the conversation the last 2 days, you can check it out on the Twitter feed at #HDPalooza. It was very, very active. Another testament to the importance of these issues is that today we are really honored and pleased to have basically the leadership of HHS on privacy here with us today and engaged in the conversation. We at AcademyHealth are also excited about a new partnership that we've just launched with the California Healthcare Foundation to develop a program called the Health Data Innovator Privacy and Security Series. This work stems from the settlement of a high-profile data breach in California and is designed to help both novice and experienced application developers and entrepreneurs clarify and understand their responsibilities under and with how to navigate HIPAA regulations and privacy and security rules, as well as obviously the California context. And as part of that project, we're going to be developing 2 Health Data Innovator roadshows to educate and inspire in the summer and early fall. So if you're out west, you might check those out as well. So today, we are so grateful for HHS leadership, as well as leaders from the Office of the National Coordinator and the Office of Civil Rights in their efforts to put together today's events. So I get to introduce one of those leaders, an amazing leader, Lucia Savage. Lucia is the HHS Chief Privacy Officer based at the Office of the National Coordinator. But prior to joining ONC, Lucia was the Senior Associate General Counsel at United Healthcare, and before that, she was general counsel at the nonprofit Pacific Business Group on Health. So she really has the experience that is needed here because she's seen privacy and security from all angles, not-for-profit, for-profit, and now government. So with that, Lucia, please join me on the stage or take my place.
Lisa, I have to say, no one can take your place. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming, and especially for our international guests who have come so far to join us today. I think we have a really great set of issues for you to grapple with today. As Lisa said, I'm the Chief Privacy Officer at the Office of the National Coordinator, and in that capacity, I get to work every day with the Health and Human Services Office for Civil Rights and its director, Jocelyn Samuels. So the Office for Civil Rights here at HHS is the agency that's responsible for writing, interpreting, and enforcing the federal health privacy law, known fondly as HIPAA. For those of you who may not know, HIPAA actually stands for the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, and the way that that acronym came to be synonymous with privacy is a very long story that we won't go into today. Office for Civil Rights is also responsible for enforcing important U.S. civil rights laws as they relate to programs funded by Health and Human Services. And you'll hear more about that if you explore the OCR website. Jocelyn joined OCR in the summer of 2014, and I came in October of 2014, so in that respect, we're classmates. We got hazed together, and we collaborate every day, and we'll be here till the bitter end together, and we really enjoy working with each other, and we've grown a great collaboration between ONC and OCR. Prior to joining Health and Human Services, Jocelyn, who is an attorney by training, had a long tenure at the U.S. Department of Justice, which culminated in her serving as Acting Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights. In that capacity, she worked on enforcing the Voting Rights Act, reforming police departments, advancing the rights of people with developmental disabilities to live and work fully integrated into their communities, and prosecuting hate crimes. So she has quite a background about how people engage together civilly besides their privacy rights. As a law review editor at Columbia University, she's clearly a pretty smart woman, and she's made a quick study of the complex interplay between the civil right to privacy and the desperate need of the healthcare system to provide comprehensive, coordinated care to individuals based on their actual medical records. She also keenly understands the needs of society at large to innovate and deliver better health at lower cost, in part through using data appropriately to understand and improve the healthcare system. Among OCR's accomplishments since July of 2014 are groundbreaking new guidance on an individual's right under U.S. law to obtain or transmit to a third party, even an app, a copy of their own health data. She's reinvigorated enforcement of appropriate security standards for health data, and she's worked on new collaborations with the Federal Trade Commission to advance consumer interests in privacy, security, and access to their own health data. Please join me in welcoming Jocelyn up to the stage.
Well, thank you so much, Lucia. That was an amazing introduction, and I'm afraid it sets expectations way too high. I am so delighted to be here with all of you this morning. Thank you for being here today. I think that this is our first inaugural privacy and security portion of Health Datapalooza, and I think it could not be more timely or important as we all confront a world in which there are increasing threats to the privacy and security of health data. I'd first like to say that our partnership with ONC, of which Lucia is the Chief Privacy Officer, is a critical and absolutely invaluable collaboration that enables us to do the work that we are doing on behalf of all of us to try to both advance sharing of data so that we can realize the health benefits of increased interoperability and data sharing, while at the same time ensuring robust privacy and security protections so that people have faith in the system and are prepared to share their data with their providers and other healthcare entities. We couldn't do it without them, so thank you, Lucia, so much. I also want to thank all of the people who have made today possible. Greg Downing, who is somewhere in the audience, whose brainchild was today's events and has done so much to advance the cause of security of medical data. I'd also like to thank Lisa Simpson so much for her sponsorship and AcademyHealth's role in today. This would not have been possible without you, so thank you very much. And finally, let me thank the staff of OCR and ONC, who are the people who do this work on the ground every day. Could all of my colleagues from those offices just raise their hands so that people know who you are? And I will say, as I said yesterday, for any of you who were in my session, if you have any hard questions, let them know. That's why I had them raise their hands. So I just want to talk a little bit about OCR's work and then turn it back over to Lisa, because there is an extraordinary range of panels and topics today, and you will hear from some really thoughtful experts and speakers today. But I think that the title of this session really captures what we're about: Privacy and Security 2.0, from challenge to enabler. I think that some of you may think that there is a tension between freeing data, which is what Health Datapalooza is all about, and protecting data, which is what animates privacy and security concerns. But I reject the idea that those two are mutually exclusive goals. And I'd like to quote the now famous Fred Trotter, who was the recipient of the Health Data Liberators Award yesterday. And I don't know if Fred is here now or will be later today. But as he said, health data moves at the speed of trust, which I think is an encapsulation of the interaction between data sharing and privacy and security. In order to have the data that we need to accomplish the health goals that we all share, we need to ensure that that data will be protected and that all of the entities that handle it take the appropriate steps to ensure that they have privacy and security measures in place. And that's where HIPAA comes in. And I'd say, I think HIPAA, although, as many of you know, was enacted in an era in which health data was more static, and there were only a limited number of entities that really had access to it, I think embodies the balance between those two goals. So HIPAA makes clear that data can be shared for various important purposes, like treatment, payment, healthcare operations. At the same time, it sets very specific constraints and requirements on the handling of health data to ensure that it is protected from the kinds of disclosures that pose risks to patients. I will say HIPAA was designed to stand the test of time. It's technology neutral. It doesn't depend on any particular medium or set of particular security controls. Instead, it is intended to be customizable and scalable so that entities can conduct risk analyses and adopt risk management processes and policies that work for their workplaces. That said, it does set expectations, and OCR is in the business of ensuring that entities that are covered by the law know what those obligations are and comply with them. And that's part of the reason that we have invested a significant amount of our resources in providing technical assistance and guidance materials to promote voluntary compliance. Because I think it is beneficial to all of us when covered entities take the steps they need to take before violations arise. And so over the course of the last couple of months, we've been pretty active in the guidance space. With ONC, for example, we issued a series of scenarios that identify the kinds of treatment, payment, and operations exchanges of data that are permissible under the law. We, as Lucia mentioned, rolled out extensive FAQs addressing patients' rights to access their health information. Now, that's critical for a lot of reasons. One is that for really all of the reform initiatives that the department is working on and that the health field in general is promoting, having patients at the center of their care is an essential component of precision medicine, of the cancer moonshot, of delivery system reform. And so making sure that patients understand that they can get access to their data and that the provider must give it to them in the form and format that they request, if it is readily producible in that form and format. They must send it to third parties designated by the individual, and they can only charge very limited fees that our guidance addresses in some detail to make clear that, for example, if patients use the view, download, transmit function of certified electronic health records, there shouldn't be any fees for that kind of access at all. The kinds of fees that providers are authorized to charge are limited in type and amount, and the guidance provides, I think, pretty extensive analysis of what those are. We are with ONC, and again, I keep referring to ONC because we could not do this work without them. We are preparing a set of consumer-friendly materials because I have to say, our access guidance, while invaluable, would never be mistaken for a John Grisham novel. Instead, I mean, it actually may serve as some sleep aid at some point in time. It is very valuable, but it is not really directed at lay people. And so we are putting together a series of videos and other print materials that will explain to consumers how they can go about exercising this extremely important right. We've also put out a series of scenarios on our new developer portal, and I am very happy to announce that OCR is in the process of joining the 21st century in terms of its web technology. So we have a redesigned website, which I think hopefully makes it much easier to find the wealth of material that we have for consumers, for providers, for insurance companies, and for other entities. But we also have a new portal, which is designed to enable us to have an interactive dialogue with developers, because we realize that HIPAA was passed in an era when the conduit exception applied to the post office. You remember envelopes with stamps? Who remembers what a stamp is? Yeah, okay. I'm just revealing my age. In any event, although the principles of HIPAA apply across the board, we recognize that for all kinds of new technologies which are being developed to help patients manage their health care and which have critical value to add to treatment, diagnosis, and improvement of health outcomes, they may need more guidance about how HIPAA applies in this new world of emerging technologies. So we are looking for developers to pose questions to us, and we respond. You can vote on issues you'd like to see us address. You can weigh in on the issues that are raised by other developers. And recently, we posted a series of scenarios that identify when HIPAA applies in the context of health apps. So if a consumer uses a Fitbit, just maintains the data herself, obviously HIPAA is not in the picture. On the other hand, as you get closer and closer to having a HIPAA-covered entity involved in receiving, transmitting, or arranging for this form of data collection and transmission, HIPAA may well kick in and start applying to those developers. So I urge you to check out those scenarios, which I think provide very concrete guidance about when our rules apply in this new space. I'd also say that our collaboration is not only something that I treasure inside HHS, but outside as well. So with FTC, we developed a tool that you can find on the FTC website that enables people in the outside world who not only don't know what HIPAA stands for, but may never have heard of it before, to identify which sets of federal laws apply when you are operating in this space, because there are obviously multiple agencies that have jurisdiction over different aspects of the information environment. And I know you'll be hearing from Cora Tung Han this afternoon, and she'll be able to tell you more about that really important tool. Let me just say, we also obviously are acutely conscious of cybersecurity risks and doing what we can to ensure that entities are taking the steps necessary to protect themselves from cyber threats, whether it is hacking or ransomware or other kinds of malware. We have started a cybersecurity information bulletin, and I urge you all to sign up for our listserv if you aren't already a part of it, so that we can alert people to what we know about cyber threats that are out there and help to disseminate information throughout the healthcare industry so that what we know becomes more widely known. We are also developing tools to ensure that covered entities are best positioned to meet their requirements and obligations under the security rule, while at the same time knowing what best practices in the cyberspace are. So we released a crosswalk maybe a month ago or so that identifies the interactions between the components of our security rule and the National Institute of Standards and Technology's cybersecurity principles. I think that that tool is valuable in order to enable people to identify which portions of the NIST standards apply to which portions of the security rule, so that you can identify where you might be lacking some of the protections that NIST recommends, and where your compliance with the security rule might enable you to meet the NIST standards. I guess I will also say very briefly that we are working very actively on the President's Precision Medicine Initiative. That is a potentially really transformative health initiative that will ultimately, we hope, enable medical professionals to customize treatment to the needs of an individual, not the needs of an average individual. And that is phenomenally exciting as a means of improving health outcomes. But it also relies on extensive exchange of massive quantities of data. And where you have data exchange, you obviously also have threats to privacy and security. And so we have been heavily involved with the NIH and the FDA and ONC to ensure that the privacy and security principles that govern the Precision Medicine Initiative will be adequate to ensure protection of the information that is contributed for this vital research. The privacy principles were finalized last fall. The security principles will be finalized shortly, and I urge you to take a look at them, because it is really important for people to understand not only the importance of this initiative and how valuable their participation can be, but also that we are doing everything we can to ensure protection of their data when they do choose to participate. So I'm going to stop now, because there are so many wonderful panelists that you will be hearing from. I'm going to turn it back over to Lisa to introduce our next speaker. But let me, before I close, thank all of you for the work that you do in this space, because it is your commitment and your tenacity and your thoughtfulness about how we can advance these goals together that really makes a difference. So thank you very much.
Wow, are we lucky to have Jocelyn in the job she's in? Yes. So before I actually introduce our moderator for the first panel, I have some logistics issues for you. So in case you really have used those liquids, you might need the restrooms. And so they are behind there where I'm pointing. There's elevators, and then just that way. You don't have to go outside of security, which, by the way, that annoying beep, it's not the AV, it's the security gates. So we're just going to have to live with that one. Also, lunch is between noon and 1. You have several options. You can go to the penthouse floor here in this building for the cafeteria, but there are also several restaurants on 3rd Street, which is several blocks south of here in that direction, I think. I used to work here, so I kind of remember the layout. So now that I've got that out, oh, and the Native American Museum. The food there is excellent, so that's just across the street.